The first scream was swallowed by the storm, not torn away by distance, not muffled by fear, simply erased, as if the island itself had decided that whatever happened next would belong only to those trapped upon it. The boat struck the reef with a sound like bone snapping. Elias Moore felt the deck tilt beneath his feet, felt salt water explode upward, cold and punishing, and in the same instant he knew, deep in his gut, that nothing about their lives would be the same again. The engine died with a choking rattle, the lights flickered once, and then darkness claimed the sea. Somewhere behind him, a woman cried out his name, Elias. He turned just as the wave hit. When Elias came to, the sky was the pale gray of exhausted dawn. His lungs burned. His lungs burned. His arms ached as if he had wrestled the ocean itself and lost. Sand clung to his face and hair, and for a terrifying second, he thought he was still drowning. Then he heard breathing, fast, uneven, alive. He pushed himself upright, coughing seawater, and saw her kneeling a few feet away. Mara Vale. Yale. Her dark hair was plastered to her cheeks, her usually sharp eyes wide and rimmed red, but she was alive. That fact alone sent a surge of relief through him so intense it made his hands shake. "You're awake," she said, her voice breaking. "Thank God." Elias scanned the beach, broken planks. Shreds of sail. A lifeboat split in half like a cracked rib. No sign of the crew. No sign of the boat. Only jungle behind them and endless ocean ahead. "We're," he began. Stranded," Mara finished quietly. "I checked. No signal. No flares. Just us. Just us." The words hung between them, heavy and dangerous. Elias swallowed. "Okay, then we survive." They had never planned to be alone together. Elias Moore was a coastal engineer, methodical, disciplined, the kind of man who believed every problem had a solution if you approached it calmly enough. He had joined the research expedition to evaluate erosion patterns around the island chain, nothing more. Mara Vale was a journalist, brilliant, relentless, infuriatingly intuitive. She had convinced the funding agency to let her document the trip, claiming it was about environmental awareness. Elias knew better. Mara chased truth like fire, and she didn't care who got burned. They had clashed from the moment they met. He thought she took risks without thinking. She thought he hid behind calculations to avoid difficult realities. And now, fate had locked them together on a forgotten island, with no witnesses and no escape. The first challenge was simple: water. They followed the sound of birds inland, pushing through dense green foliage until they found a trickling stream. Elias tested it carefully, showing Mara how to boil the water using a piece of metal salvaged from the wreck and stones heated in a fire pit. "You've done this before," she said. He nodded. "Training. Never thought I'd need it." Mara managed a thin smile. I guess the universe disagreed. They worked without speaking for a while, exhaustion weighing on both of them. But fewer than when the fire finally caught, its small, defiant flame felt like a victory far larger than it should have been. That night, they sat on opposite sides of the fire, listening to the jungle breathe. "You think anyone's looking for us?" Mara asked. "Yes," Elias said immediately. "They'll notice we're missing." "When?" He hesitated. Her gaze sharpened. "A days? Weeks?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But we prepare like it's weeks." Mara hugged her knees. "I hate waiting, I know." She looked at him then, truly looked at him, and something unspoken shifted between them. Days passed, measured by hunger and heat. They built a shelter from palm leaves and driftwood. They learned which fruits were safe, which crabs could be caught near the rocks at low tide. Elias mapped the island by walking its perimeter. Mara kept a journal, writing whenever the ink hadn't run. At first, they argued constantly. "You can't just climb that cliff," Elias snapped one afternoon. "And you can't just sit here pretending help will magically arrive." Mara shot back. "I'm not pretending. I'm planning. I'm planning. And I'm trying to survive." The words cut deeper than she meant. That night, a storm rolled in without warning. Wind tore at their shelter. Rain soaked everything. When a branch crashed nearby, Mara screamed and Elias pulled her close without thinking, his arms locking around her as if he could shield her from the world itself. She froze. So did he. Slowly, carefully, she leaned into him. Neither of them spoke about it afterward, but something had changed. The real danger came on the 9th day. Elias slipped while gathering coconuts near the ridge. The ground gave way beneath his foot, and he fell hard, his leg twisting at an impossible angle. His scream echoed through the jungle. Mara found him minutes later, pale and sweating, teeth clenched in pain. "He told you not to go alone," she said. her voice shaking. Pulsime, helpful, he groaned. She knelt beside him, hands surprisingly steady as she examined his leg. You can't walk. I can, he said stubbornly, trying and failing to stand. She pushed him back down. You'll make it worse. For the first time since the wreck, fear flooded her completely. If Elias couldn't walk, couldn't gather food, couldn't protect them, they were both in trouble. Mara built a crude splint using sticks and torn cloth. She half carried, half dragged him back to camp, ignoring her own exhaustion. That night, she stayed awake, listening to his breathing, watching for fever. You don't have to, he murmured at one point. I do, she said. Diener, she said. Because you do the same for me, he smiled faintly. You don't know that. She met his eyes. I do. As days turned into weeks, their roles shifted. Mara became the provider, the protector. She learned to fish with sharpened bone. She climbed trees carefully, always testing her footing. She spoke to Elias constantly, keeping his spirits up even when her own faltered. Oh, you're not allowed to die, she told him one morning as she helped him sit up. I didn't sign up for that kind of story, he chuckled weakly. A bossy, a damn right. At night, when the jungle sounds grew too loud, she slept beside him. At first, there was space between them, then less. Eventually, none at all. It was on the 23rd night that she said it. The fire had burned low. The stars were sharp and endless. Elias stared up at them, wondering how something so beautiful could feel so cruel. Mara turned toward him, her face lit by embers. I'm scared, she said softly. So am I, he admitted. She swallowed, her voice barely more than a whisper. I keep telling myself I'm strong, that I can handle this, that I don't need anyone. He turned to face her. You don't have to be alone. Her eyes shone with unshed tears. I know, she took a breath as if stepping off a cliff. I'm just a woman, she said. I'm not a hero, not a symbol, just human. He waited, heart pounding. And you're what I want. Scene. Silence wrapped around them. Elias searched her face, searching for doubt, for regret. He found none. Mara, he said carefully, this island, this fear, it messes with people. I don't want you to feel like, she pressed her fingers against his lips. Don't turn this into a problem to solve. Her hand trembled. I want you, she repeated. Not because we're trapped, not because I'm afraid, but because every time I thought I couldn't go on, you were the reason I did. Something inside him broke open. He pulled her into his arms, slow and deliberate, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Their kiss was not desperate or wild. It was careful, reverent, two people choosing connection in a world that had stripped everything else away. Love, Elias learned, was not weakened by hardship. It was forged by it. The weeks that followed were lighter. They laughed more, planned more, dreamed quietly about what might come after rescue. If rescue ever came. Mara talked about writing a book, not about the island, but about what people become when nothing is left. Elias talked about building coastal defenses differently, respecting the sea instead of fighting it. One morning, Mara climbed the ridge Elias had fallen from and spotted something on the horizon, a line of smoke. Her scream this time was not swallowed by the wind. They lit every fire they could, waving bright cloth, shouting until their voices cracked. Hours passed. Then, a ship emerged from the blue, slow and deliberate, like a promise finally kept. When they were pulled aboard, sunburned and thin and alive, Mara squeezed Elias's hand so tightly it hurt. Whatever happens next, she said, we survived because we chose each other. He nodded, emotion thick in his throat. As the island shrank behind them, Elias realized something profound. They hadn't been trapped. They had been tested. And in the silence, the fear, and the endless sea, they had discovered the simplest truth of all, that strength is not about standing alone, but about daring to want, to trust, and to love, even when the world gives you every reason not to. That was the story worth telling. And this time, they would tell it together.